Welcome to the Ringer NFL show. I'm Sheil Kapadia, and I spent my day cooking up some fake trades. We've got the trade deadline coming up in a couple weeks on November 4th. We've already seen some movement. Will we see more? Could the Raiders move Maxx Crosby? Could the Bengals trade Trey Hendrickson? Both teams have indicated that's not happening, but things can change very quickly in the NFL. It's a week-to-week league based on results, based on what teams are offering you. What about the Saints and wide receiver Chris Olave, or the Jets and running back Breece Hall? Dolphins, I mean, they should be trading everyone on their roster who's not going to be a part of their team in 2026. Maybe someone like edge defender Jaelen Phillips. So we'll go over that. We'll go over which teams are potential buyers, what it might take for some of these teams to pull the trigger on some of these trades. And to talk about it all, we've got my friend from the Ringer, Diante Lee. We'll play a little game of Who Says No after the break. This is the Ringer NFL show presented by FanDuel. And if you're betting on the NFL, FanDuel's the place to do it. They've got everything. Same game parlays, quick bets for when you want to jump in live, and your way so you can set your own lines. The app's fast, it's easy to use, and best of all, when you win, you get paid out instantly. Download the FanDuel app or go to FanDuel.com/RingerNFL to get started. The Ringer is committed to responsible gaming. Please visit rg-help.com to learn more about the resources and helplines available, and listen to the end of the episode for additional details. Must be 21 plus and present in select states, and 18 plus in D.C., Kentucky, and Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. All right, we're back on the Ringer NFL show. Sheil Kapadia here with Diante Lee. Ready for some fake trades, my friend?
Of course I'm ready for some fake trades.
He's ready. Here we go. All right, first one. These are trades that need to happen. I'm telling you they need to happen. Raiders trade Maxx Crosby to the Cowboys for 2 first-round picks. 2026 first,
Okay.
2027 first. They're taking those picks from the Packers trade and giving them to the Cowboys. Here's my reasoning here, Diante.
Okay.
The Raiders are a sad sack franchise. They got nothing. They need some valuable assets. I know they told Maxx Crosby, we're not moving you. You're safe. But it's their only chip. It's their only way to get capital where they can do a proper rebuild. So that's the situation from the Raiders standpoint. You get a couple first-round picks. And then the Cowboys, Jerry's been telling us, he's making a trade. He didn't just get all those assets for nothing. So now he turns the Micah Parsons trade into Micah Parsons. You get Maxx Crosby. You get Kenny Clark. And by the way, this is a big deal here. Crosby has a very team-friendly contract when you look at the top of the level pass rusher. So you're getting Crosby for way cheaper than Micah Parsons. He's under contract here, signed through 2029. I think it makes a lot of sense for the Cowboys to go all in with the way their offense is playing. All right, who says no here, Diante? The Cowboys or the Raiders, or do we have ourselves a deal?
If you're the Cowboys, I don't know if you want to give away those 2 picks that you've got. I will say, from Jerry's perspective, this will be the greatest because you can deal for Maxx Crosby and you can say, see, I'm very serious about stopping the run.
Yes.
I got myself an edge rusher who's reliable. Even if he's hurt, he's going to play, and you know he's going to set an edge and stop the run for us. I just wouldn't give away those 2 first-round picks. I see those as so valuable after this year, right? And it does take some divorcing from what the Cowboys are right now, because there are so many times where I watch and I'm like, man, if you got this offense into the postseason, man, you would not want to see Dak Prescott right now in a playoff environment, I don't think. But no, man, those picks are too valuable for me. I think everybody else would say yes. If you're the Raiders, like you said, there's no way out right now outside of moving a guy like Crosby to get a little bit of a draft surplus. Even with that, if I'm Mark Davis and my GM walks in the building and says, hey, I've been talking to the Cowboys and I got this thing that's on the table, I'm saying no. You want me to give away the one good thing, the one thing I have to look forward to on Sundays every week? I'm not doing this.
All right, so you're not doing it from either team here. All right, if you're the Cowboys, how many more years like this with Dak are you going to get? I mean, he's in his 30s.
Yeah,
you
maybe
can't
2.
wait. Those draft picks, you still have your own draft picks. You're not giving away. This isn't like Herschel Walker. You got to pounce now. NFC's wide open. You got the best offense in the conference. You got to make this deal. And Mark Davis, listen, man, your plans have not been working. My guy, you know what I mean? Like that watching Maxx Crosby on a team that's going to go 3-14, where's that getting you?
I guess nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, I won't argue that they're any closer to reaching their goals now than before. I will say also from Dallas's perspective, I'm going to take a more serious look at it. If you're Jerry, this is like the perfect contract to be acquiring. There's really no guaranteed money after the next couple seasons. So
he's 28 years old.
28 years old.
Yeah.
By the time he gets to the end of the deal, he's probably going to be on his way out of the league, and you get the last of his prime. I don't hate it. I just think that 2 first-round picks is a little steep if I were Stephen Jones.
All right, you drove a hard bargain, Diante. So I'm Mark Davis. I'm not going to show you my hair. I'm wearing a hat today. I'm going to make it because I like you. Mm-hmm. You know, we've done business before. We want to do business again. We're going to make it a first this year.
Okay.
And then we're going to make it a second in 2027 that only turns into a first if Maxx Crosby has 10-plus sacks next season. So you got some protection here. If he gets injured or falls off next year, you only owe me a second for next year. First in 2026, second in 2027, turns into a first if he has 10-plus sacks. Do we have a deal?
I promise I'm not a haggler like this in real life. Okay, this is only for the sake of the podcast, but I'd have to add a condition that we get to the divisional round of the playoffs. Man. You give me 10 sacks from Maxx Crosby and we get to the divisional round, you can have this first-round pick.
I feel like I'm bargaining with an Indian uncle here or something. You know what I mean? They always got to win the deal. All right, so Diante says no trade. I know the Raiders told Crosby he's not going anywhere, but if you're Crosby, are you like, it was so funny, that story, because I'm like, does he really want that assurance? Like, he might be like, all right, I've liked playing here, but enough is enough. You know what I mean? I wouldn't mind going somewhere. So we'll see. He probably doesn't get moved, but I think he's an interesting name out there for some of these contending teams. All right, we couldn't do it for one pass rusher, so we're going to move on to the next deal for another pass rush here. Bengals trade Trey Hendrickson to the New England Patriots for a 3rd-round pick that becomes a second if the Patriots advance to the AFC Championship game. So there you go, Trey Hendrickson. I know the Bengals are trying to talk themselves into doing something this year. Come on. Are we being serious here with this Joe Flacco thing?
I'm with you.
You're not going to the Super Bowl. You're probably not going to the playoffs. You're not going to the AFC Championship game. You made a 1-year deal with Hendrickson. He's gone after the year. Get something for him. And if you're the Patriots, sometimes that opportunity comes a little faster than you were anticipating. I'm not saying they're definitely going to get, but they got a shot to do it this year. You need some pass rush. So Trey Hendrickson to the Patriots for a 3rd-round pick that becomes a second if the Patriots advance to the AFC Championship game. Who says no?
I actually love this from both sides.
All right.
I love this from both sides. I think that's the right kind of conditional framing for New England to make it make sense, right? That's saying we have absolutely maximized our 2025 window and achieved beyond our wildest dreams if we get to the Final Four. And I think if you're the Bengals, to your point, would you like to believe when you go to sleep at night that when we get to December, Joe Burrow is going to be ahead of schedule in recovery and he's going to be able to jump right back in and he's in tip-top shape and we're still going to be in competition in the AFC for maybe the 7th seed? Yeah, it's a nice thought. And then you actually look at the AFC picture and there's just such a high cluster. Having Indianapolis be as good as it is right now really kind of complicates things for them. It's just too much to bank on. Way too many conditions to bank on. I think if you're the Bengals and you're being pragmatic, even if Burrow's back, I mean, we know that Hendrickson is not changing the world for this Bengals defense. If anything, they probably need to continue looking to sell pieces to try to add that mid-round draft capital. I actually love this for both teams. And if you're New England, maybe having a guy that can just be a designated pass rusher could be the thing that gets that defense to about the level you'd be comfortable with in thinking that they could win a playoff game if they get there.
Yeah, Patriots are looking at great offense, mediocre defense. Right. Is kind of what their formula is going to be. We'll see if their defense improves as the season goes on. But yeah, I sort of feel like they might be aggressive because they've got cap space. They can absorb this contract. They are kind of in a spot to be aggressive here and say, hey, who knows? Your quarterback's healthy. He's playing great. You're feeling good about your team. This Bengals thing, man, it's like, you know me, I have been like the Bengals defender and what are we talking about here, Diante?
I'm with you.
I mean, think of the things that need to go right for like this dream scenario. I mean, you're talking about Joe Flacco's got to play well enough to get you in the postseason mix. That in and of itself, I don't care what happened on Thursday night. Like that is a big ask right there, especially when you look at offensive line, defensive talent. Like I don't think that even step one of the equation is not going to happen, but let's say it does. Now you're saying Joe Burrow, who just suffered this serious injury that kept him out for most of the season, is going to come back with like and all of a sudden in the biggest games of the season in December or whenever it is going to come back and look like Joe Burrow from last year.
You can tell yourself we can be a 7-9 win team, but you could very easily start losing out in this November to mid-December stretch, and maybe Joe Burrow's not coming back to anything.
That's not a guarantee.
I think that it's just as likely that this season is lost by the time he would be cleared to play as you would actually be in contention for the 6 or 7.
Yeah. Again, I've been the Bengals defender, but
it's okay to let go here.
It's crazy.
It's okay
I mean, it's just like, it's so unrealistic to me that, and I do respect when teams are like, we want to be as competitive as possible right now.
Yeah.
But also like your roster kind of stinks in a lot. Like your defense has no players.
Yep.
Your O-line can always get better. You got to just keep the long-term vision in mind here with Joe Burrow. So we'll see. I read in The Athletic today, their beat writer, Paul Diener Jr., who's very plugged in, was like, it's not happening. Like if they think they have a chance, they're going to hold on to Trey Hendrickson, and he very well could be right. But I think that's the wrong decision. I think, especially with these teams in contention eating pass rush, like who knows? Maybe you get more than the draft compensation I just laid out there. All right, let's take a break. We come back. We have, I think, my favorite one on this list for you, Diante. The Ringer NFL show is brought to you by FanDuel. Thursday Night Football continues to deliver, and FanDuel's keeping the energy up with their $2 million Thursday Night Football jackpot. Place an anytime touchdown scorer bet using your profit boost, and if your player scores the first or last touchdown of the game, you'll earn a share of $2 million in bonus bets. Head to FanDuel.com/RingerNFL to download the app and get started. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 plus and present in select states or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. Opt in. Must apply profit boost token on select market. Prize pool to be split equally among all eligible participants who made the correct first or last TD pick. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 21 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. This episode is brought to you by Apple. Before it was Ringer NFL, it was just an idea. I started with just a mic and a Mac and the need to discuss all things football. We thought, are we going to do a daily show? Are we going to change the logo? Who are the guests going to be? What are the topics going to be? Listen, we're still figuring it out, but no matter what you have an idea for, whether it's creating your own commentary on this week's games, starting a platform for your take on sports, or even founding your own league, go for it. You just need to get started. Your great ideas start on Mac. Find out more on apple.com/Mac. All right, we're back on the Ringer NFL show. This one, sometimes you do the trade machine. Some of them you're talking yourself into, and then other ones you're like, no, this should 100% happen. The one that should 100% happen, Diante. Saints trade wide receiver Chris Olave to the Buffalo Bills.
Ooh,
Olave goes to Buffalo, and I got another condition for you. Did I get carried away with the conditions? Yes, but what do you want from me? It's fun. There should be more conditions on trade. So the conditions are it's a third that becomes a second if Chris Olave hits 1,000 yards this season, or if the Bills get to the Super Bowl. Because I know doing business with you like the team, team reaches a certain thing. Yep. So those are the two conditions. Olave is on pace for over 1,000 yards. So if he keeps his current pace, stays healthy, he hits that one. Olave signed through 2026 on the 5th-year option. So this isn't just a rental. Yeah. You get him for a reasonable price in 2026. If you're the Saints, given Olave's concussion history, and I hope he's fine, but I don't know if they're going to be willing to pay him a certain dollar amount in future years. So if I imagine if you're in New Orleans, you've already had that conversation. You've already talked to his representation. You should have an idea what you want to do. Yeah. And if you're not there, you're 1-6, then move him now, get some draft capital here. And I can't get that last Bills loss to the Falcons out of my head where it's like a lot of things were going wrong, but I did feel like they could use another pass catcher here. And I know not everyone was healthy, but I mean, Dalton Kincaid, I believe, is their leading pass catcher.
It's a problem.
And that's a problem when you're trying to get to the Super Bowl here. So I think Olave is a nice, reliable, big play guy, great route runner who they can add to that room.
I'm with you. And as far as like, you're one of the first people I've heard that laid out the recipe for the success for a great offense is to just have a mediocre defense. They're going to try to make a Super Bowl run with a great offense and a bad defense.
Bad defense.
More likely than not, which means that this offense has to be like Drew Brees in his prime level, overpowered Saints offense. And a guy like Olave would do that for them, right? Outside of the time that he's missed with concussions, if you look at all the efficiency metrics for wide receivers, he's almost always 80th percentile or better. Yards per route run, EPA, even against two high defenses, the team success rate when he's targeted, all those things pretend well.
With bad quarterbacks.
With bad quarterbacks.
Average quarterbacks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, offenses that have fallen apart because of health or whatever the other case, he's been relatively dependable when he's available. I think I like this deal for the Bills. I think that this is the kind of receiver they need on the outside, right? We're going to assume, I mean, Keon Coleman can be a jump ball guy. I just think that his volume has to decrease when he's available for this team. You can't target him 8, 12, 15 times a game. I don't think that that's his role. I think that, and knowing that Josh Allen likes to spread the love anyways, having Olave to take those deep shots instead of a guy like Josh Palmer, who can be serviceable, but for this offense is not going to help you maximize your value. I like it for them. And if you're New Orleans, I think eventually you're going to have to make a decision between Olave and Shaheed. And I think because Shaheed's numbers are so much lower in terms of contract value right now, since he's a late pick, it probably makes a lot more sense to keep Shaheed and to move Olave because of some of the health concerns you laid out, the fact that there is going to be some cost certainty. So maybe you can get some more back in a trade than in asking for or in dealing for Shaheed.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a realistic way to look at where New Orleans is at. They've had a fun offense this year. I think a bit of a surprise with Spencer Rattler and the way they've been competitive in games. But we know that this team is not anywhere close to contender for a playoff spot, let alone a Super Bowl. So it would be reasonable to make this move now, I would think.
This would take, we always like to talk about GMs and saving their jobs and PR. And this would, because your Keon Coleman point is the key point here. Yeah. If Keon Coleman had developed and been the guy they were hoping he was going to be,
right,
I'm not pitching you this trade.
Exactly.
Let's just be honest with it. It hasn't happened. Maybe it will happen, but it hasn't happened yet. And you're trying to win a Super Bowl this year. So if you're Brandon Beane and you berated the radio host in the offseason, that why are you talking about I need wide receivers? Are you willing to make a move like this and say, all right, we got more information and we feel like it gives us the best chance to win. So I think it would make sense for him. It doesn't mean you're giving up on Keon Coleman or anything. Like you said, they spread the ball around. If somebody goes down, now all of a sudden you have another option here in Olave. It's not a rental. So now you go into next year feeling good because, $15 million on his fifth-year option with what wide receivers are getting paid, that's a very good contract.
And how efficient he's been, for sure. I think he plays ahead of that value when he's available, right? It's really just a question of, will he be healthy long enough for us to maximize that? It's funny you brought up the Bills. My closing point is that I had another AFC East team in mind. I thought of New England, right? Getting a deep vertical threat. I also thought of the 49ers, potentially, if they could use a little bit more verticality in the offense. They have basically every other role in the offense kind of sorted out. I think that a vertical threat for either of those two teams, again, two teams that are probably ahead of their schedule based on where their roster talent is at, it will make a lot of sense. Maybe a guy like Olave comes in, gives you that explosive element, and then as you regress to the mean in other areas, you know that you have a guy that can help kind of take the tops off of defenses and be a very quarterback-friendly type of receiver.
Olave with Drake, man. That would be pretty exciting, no doubt about it. All right, two more for Diante, the New York Jets. The 0-7 Jets trade Breece Hall to the Kansas City Chiefs for a 4th-round pick. So this is one I was looking at. I thought with the Chiefs all season long, they could use a little bit more juice at running back, even though you look at the metrics and it's like, all right, they've been better. They haven't been horrible, but Isaiah Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, Rashard Smith, do you want to go into a Super Bowl run with that as your running back room, or do you want to add someone like Breece Hall, who's only under contract through the end of the season? So the Jets probably, these teams like the Jets and some, if you're out of it and you're not going to re-sign a guy,
right,
to me, it's organizational malpractice to just be like, no, we didn't like the price. Like, this is a open market. What is the best price someone's willing to give you? Whatever that is, that's what you should be trading these players for if you're not going to keep them beyond this season. So that's how I look at it with Breece Hall. So a 4th-round pick to the Jets from the Chiefs for Breece Hall. What do you think?
I don't hate that. I had the Chargers in mind, another AFC West team that could use a little
Yeah.
bit of explosiveness out
Yeah.
of the backfield. I would say it probably pays bigger dividends for the Chiefs because the Chargers are so banged up up front. They haven't been able to move the ball on the ground at all this season, and it's been getting worse as guys have continued to stack up these injuries, and teams have to respect the run even less. It's been really difficult for them. I like it with the Chiefs. It is like the running back position is maybe the only spot on that roster I will look and I'm like, this is kind of unserious, guys.
Yeah.
I like Isaiah Pacheco when he's at his best, right? Tough yardage, real thing. And I'm not saying that he should get no touches,
right?
But him being the lead back is probably not what you want for a Super Bowl contending team, especially because you know that Kansas City wants to punish teams that want to play with light boxes and really take away the explosive passing game from them. They want to be able to hand the football off. And a guy like Breece Hall behind that offensive line in the RPO game, whether it's under center downhill runs, you know that any one of his touches can turn into a 25, 30-yard gain. And that could be the kind of piece we've been talking for the last 2 years. What is it going to take for this offense to get more explosive? Yeah. And I feel like over the last 2 to 3 weeks, we've seen Kansas City kind of start to creep back towards that identity that we saw in 2021, 2020, and having an explosive running back, which is something they've never had in this offense, I think could really open things up for them. I'm interested in why you did Breece Hall instead of maybe like an Alvin Kamara, who I know has kind of been like a hotly thrown around name for Kansas City amongst the fan base. I mean, the price probably is something you have to weigh in.
Yeah.
Age, obviously, something you have to weigh in. You bring in a guy like Breece Hall, who's a good running back, but has not necessarily performed at like Jonathan Taylor on his rookie deal type of production where you feel like, oh, I've got to give this guy $14 million a year. You might be able to get him at a bit of a discount on a shorter term deal. So I don't hate that from the Chiefs' perspective, and I love that. If you're the Jets, get what you can. Because clearly this turnaround is going to take a lot longer than you thought you did when you brought in Darren Moogie and Aaron Glenn to be the guys leading this franchise. They are going nowhere right now.
That's the big thing I look at is the contracts with like trades that could actually happen. It's like, is there somebody that's going to be on a bad team that's going to be a free agent at the end of the season? Like those are guys that just should get moved. Like you can... Again, if you're an organization that's like, no, we're not giving them up for that. What are you doing? Like, you're not impressing anyone. You're wasting time. You're wasting a pick by not doing that. So, that's why I looked at Breece Hall and I'm like, he just fits the profile of someone who should get moved here. All right. Last guy, similar situation. Bad team. Last year of his rookie deal and has been a productive player at a position that I think teams will covet. And that is the Miami Dolphins trading Jaelen Phillips to your Philadelphia Eagles, Diante, for a 3rd-round pick. Now, Vic Fangio coached Jaelen Phillips in Miami. They could hate each other. I don't know if they like each other because Vic Fangio and some of those Dolphins players had some issues. I don't know if Jaelen Phillips was one of those guys because I was looking at it. He played over 70% of the snaps that year until he got injured. So Fangio wasn't like, get this guy out of here, so that he saw something in him. Phillips is a free agent at the end of the year. Again, if you're the Dolphins and you're not re-signing him, why would you keep this guy on your roster rather than get something for him? Only has 2 sacks, but leads the team with 22 pressures this year, has played 70% of the snaps. Eagles got Brandon Graham out of retirement, but Darius Smith did retire.
Yeah.
Nolan Smith is injured. Now they're Jalix Hunt seeing a lot of snaps. They just need a little bit more juice up front. And I thought Jaelen Phillips could be the kind of guy they would go after.
They need juice and they need size, right? Like that's a noticeable hole with this defense, even against Minnesota, which is not a team that, again, with interior offensive line injuries, has been able to move the ball up and down the field. There were still multiple instances in the first half where you're looking at like, okay, if they want to get 4 yards, they can go get it in the run game. And that has been the story of Philadelphia's defense so far this year. And they do need legitimate, like early down pressure off the edge. Jalix Hunt, speed guy. When Nolan Smith is available, speed guy. Obvious passing situations, those guys can affect the pocket. In terms of early downs, dealing with play action, dealing with unexpected passes on 1st and 2nd down, you need a guy who can go just affect the pocket, even if you're not necessarily getting sack production. I think that Phillips can be that guy, right? And I think that, to your point, I don't assume that there's some big issue. I don't remember Jaelen Phillips being on the list of guys who seem to be popping champagne.
Tweets for us.
Right, exactly.
There were some tweets flying.
100%. So I'd be interested to see where that relationship is. But again, in terms of efficiency, this checks all the boxes. Guy who gets to the quarterback, who can play on early downs. He's got the size. Last year of his rookie deal, which means you're not bringing in a lot of money for Philadelphia. You've got to be very cost conscious, I think, right now as you try to figure out what the next era is going to look like, 2026 and beyond. I like this for this team. And maybe that is the last box they need to fill on the defensive side of the ball. Between that and maybe the number 2 corner spot, I think they've got to make a choice on where their priorities are. And I would probably lean edge rusher because pass rush has been a big hole for them so far this year.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because organizationally, they've always prioritized the pass rush.
Yep.
But it's probably like, what does Vic Fangio want?
Exactly.
They probably go to Vic Fangio. Do you want this or this here? And the corner market is a little bit tougher. I mean, there's a lot of pass rushers. What do you think from a position standpoint? It feels like to join a team in the middle of a season.
I think you'd rather be an edge rusher.
Right. Okay.
I think you'd rather be an edge rusher.
Too.
And then the market, to your point, if you want to go get a corner, your best bet is maybe Tariq Woolen, who we talked about before we got on the show. Like, even if you're Seattle and you're not necessarily jazzed about keeping him here long term, why would you deal him if you're playing as well as you are right now?
Yeah.
And then outside of that, you're looking at maybe a guy like Cam Taylor-Britt, who, again, like, shows a lot of flash, a lot of promise at times, speedy guy, somebody you might be interested in, but he's still kind of a project. We haven't seen week by week, season over season production from him in the way that he has flashed that he's capable of, right? You don't get that one-handed pick against Kansas City every week. When you see it, it looks amazing, but you don't get it as often as you would like to have it. So yeah, I think if you're Philadelphia, if you're a team that's just looking for defensive juice, you're much more likely to find it this year, I think, on the edge than you would at corner.
All right, what was my best one? Diante, grade me. Grade the trader. Which one did you like? Jaelen, Phillips, Breece Hall, Chris Olave? What's the one where you're like, this one I want to see happen? What do you got?
I would say Kansas City.
Breece Hall? Okay.
Yeah, I think that Breece Hall going to Kansas City is the one that maybe gets me the most excited if I try to project out what the rest of the year would look like. I don't hate Olave to Buffalo. I think that maybe part of this for me is probably just like recency, but just looking at the way the Buffalo's played over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see what it's like when they come off this bye, but I look at that defense and I'm like, maybe this isn't as much of a Super Bowl window as I thought for Buffalo, at least not in 2025, with the way that they've been playing defensively. So I would say Breece Hall probably is the guy that most quickly would supercharge the team that he is going to and solve some legitimate problems for them.
Or maybe Buffalo says, forget Chris Olave. We want in on one of these, pass rushers or another position there. They might have to make that kind of decision this year because you can't get everybody. All right, he's Diante Lee. Approved of some, did not approve of the others. Thank you, Diante, for joining me. I will be right back with the Hurry Up. All right, the Hurry Up is our closing segment where I give you a take on news in the NFL. And on Wednesday, we found out that the Commanders will be without quarterback Jayden Daniels in Week 8. He is out with a hamstring strain. Marcus Mariota will get the start against the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday night. And this Washington team is just in a tough spot. You know, they're 3-4. Before the season, a lot of people were saying, hey, regression's going to hit the Commanders. That's kind of what's happened so far. They're 0-2 in one-score games. They've only got 3 takeaways. That's the second fewest in the NFL. And now Jayden Daniels is missing his 3rd start. So I'm not giving up on this team yet because I'm a big Jayden Daniels fan. And actually, I think what their offense has done is pretty impressive given the injuries that they've dealt with. But man, their margin for error is shrinking here. If you look at the strength of schedule based on the betting markets, they have the 2nd hardest remaining schedule in the entire NFL. So the way I'm looking at this Commanders team is they've just got to stay in it. They've got to stay in it kind of through Thanksgiving, and then you hope you can go on a run in the final 5 or 6 weeks of the NFL season. So they definitely face an uphill climb here. They need Daniels healthy if they're going to do something this season, if they're going to build on what they did last year, that magical run. We really haven't seen him healthy so far this season. So I think the key is give him a little break here, get that hamstring healthy. Hopefully you can weather the storm with Mariota, stay in it, and go on a run. But Commanders definitely in a tough spot here as they look at the rest of the season. All right. Appreciate everyone listening. Thank you to Christopher Sutton for producing, Kiera Givens on social, additional production supervision by Conor Nevins and Arjuna Ramgopowell. We'll be back tomorrow on the Ringer NFL Show. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.